Welcome to On the Corner of Main Street, presented by Plaza Hotel and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Here is Plaza CEO Jonathan Jossel, Gary Vickery, and I'm your host, Lisa Melmed. Hello and welcome to On the Corner of Main Street. Hello, Jonathan. How's it going?
Doing good, Lisa. Very happy to be here. Still excited that we do a podcast. It just dawns on me every now and then when I meet someone who listens to it that it's just a cool thing that we do, and it's a great opportunity for us to meet with different people, which is very fun. With the pandemic, something people really appreciate, that there's an outlet for them to still hear Vegas news. And I mean, there's many outlets for them, but this is just one more option. And I like to know that lots of people listen to it. I was out at a show last night. I went to see Atomic Saloon. It was their first night back. And somebody called me their favorite podcaster.
Wow.
So I was very honored.
That's huge.
But yeah, it was good to see shows coming back. A little hard, when the artists are wearing masks.
Oh, they were?
Yeah, they're singing with masks and they're dancing in masks. It's a little
interesting.
It's a little challenging for them, I imagine. But, they do it. And I think people just appreciate that they're back on stage. And it's nice to see. Atomic Saloon is the creator of Absinthe, Ross Martison, who was on the podcast as well. Mm-hmm. And he invited us to go see the opening night. And it was just cool to see it back and people having fun, enjoying a show, and great energy. It was sold out. Sold out in social distancing world. Mm-hmm. And it was nice to see.
Nice.
It was
That's fun.
So it's a great show if you haven't seen it at the Palazzo.
Check it out. I went to East Fremont this past weekend, the first time back there since before the pandemic. And I got served a drink from a bartender for the first time.
Amazing.
It's the little things that I think we're going to appreciate more and more after going.
Did you see the new tequila bar, Lucky Day?
Yes, I walked by it. There was a line to get in.
It's packed. It's unbelievable. That whole area is just packed.
The whole area was packed.
Yeah.
Like safely packed.
Packed-ish. Yeah, we had comedy here. So I stayed down here Saturday, checked out the comedy show. People seem happy that that's coming back. A lot of good things happening, and we are enjoying this run that we're on and seeing people coming back to Vegas. So it's been good. I did go see the Raiders Stadium, which was very cool. I got a tour of the Raiders Stadium, and I can't wait to see people in that. They're saying come September there's going to be 65,000 people in
Wow.
there. So we will see how that works out. But yeah, they're excited, and today's guest has a lot to do with that. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to hear what he has to say about it.
Well, let's jump in. Today we are joined by the Chief Executive Officer and President of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, aka the LVCVA, which promotes and attracts tourism, conventions, meetings, and special events to Las Vegas and Southern Nevada. The LVCVA also owns and operates the Las Vegas Convention Center. Welcome, Steve Hill, to On the Corner of Main Street.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, Steve. I was just saying that before we started, you texted me out of the blue about the Gaming GGB article in the Plaza's 50th anniversary, so thank you for that. I think the last time I saw you was when we hosted the tourism convention here at the Plaza.
Yeah, the States Convention.
Yeah, and we had a nice gathering for that. That was probably 2 years ago now. It's been a little while.
Everything's been 2 years ago now.
I say it every day. Everyone's like, well, it's 2 years ago. I was like, yeah, but keep in mind, for the last year, you didn't do anything.
Yeah, right.
So nice to see you again. Nice to have you back at the Plaza.
Great to be here.
Thank you for coming downtown.
Thank you. So tell us about yourself and how you got started in your career.
Okay. I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio, and lived there the first 27, 28 years of my life. After I got out of college, I went to work for a ready-mix concrete company in Dayton, which is not really the subject of a podcast. But I met a gentleman there who owned the company and had sold it and retired and moved to Florida. And he called me and said, why don't you quit your job and move to Las Vegas and start a ready-mix concrete company in Las Vegas, and I'll back you.
Wow.
So
what year was that?
1987.
Okay.
And I
good time to be selling concrete in Vegas.
Once I got here, that was true. When he thought Vegas was going to grow, and you need that in construction, concrete, anything like that. And he turned out to be right. But when he made that call, Las Vegas hadn't really built much since the Tropicana Tower was opened in the late 70s. Atlantic City had opened in 81. A lot of the gaming investment money had gone to the East Coast, and nothing had been built here in close to a decade. And the town wasn't really doing very well. And so I bought a pickup truck, put my stuff in the back, put a big blue tarp over it, drove into town in October of 87. I was at the Sahara here recently. I told this story. I didn't have a place to stay, and so I drove up to the Port of Cashir at the Sahara, pretty much looking like a modern-day Jed Clampett at the time. Okay. And they just came out and ran me off and said, go stay at the Mardi Gras. So that's where I spent the first night.
Wow.
About 6 weeks into being in Las Vegas, I got a call from a guy named Gus Rapone. And Gus was a contractor in town. He said, come over, I want to talk with you. We've got a big project to take a look at. And I went over and he showed me all these plans. And it was a big job, but I didn't have any idea if this was going to go forward or not. He said, come back next week, give me a price. And I went to buy sand and gravel and cement and the things you need for concrete. And nobody would sell me. I mean, I'm 28 years old. I own a pickup truck and a business card, and nobody's going to give me credit. Nobody wants me competing with them. So I went back and talked to Gus and said, I can't give you a price because I can't buy anything. And he said, well, they'd sell you if I gave you the job, right? And I said, yeah, I'm sure they would. And he said, okay, job's yours. Just be fair with the price.
Wow.
And that job turned out to be the Mirage. And so 6-7 weeks into
you owe Gus a lot.
I owe Gus a great deal. His partner was Kitty Rodman, a great lady, very well known when she was in the community, and building named after her at UNLV. So they are who got me started in Las Vegas.
I mean, that's a pretty big trend. That's a pretty amazing first project to be involved in the Mirage. Was that like a stepping stone into doing more deals like that, or did you soon after migrate into the LVCVA?
No, we bought a company here in town, Stocks Mill and Supply, the next year.
Right.
One of the original founders of the Union Plaza was Frank Scott.
Yeah,
he was one of the owners of that concrete company.
Oh, cool. We talk about him a lot on the podcast.
Is that right?
His impact in town, and obviously what he did with the plaza.
Yeah, I'd never met him. He was really not been involved with that business for some time, but he was still a minority owner of that business. So we bought that company and then grew from there and grew with Las Vegas. So I, with my partner, owned that company until we sold to a private equity firm in 2006 and then completely sold out in early 2008.
So, I mean, you really were a pioneer coming here in 87 and starting something from nothing. I mean, that's the I guess, the beauty of Vegas and the opportunity it affords you to come here as a guy without anything in a trailer, and next thing you know, you're doing the concrete for the Mirage.
Yeah, and I don't know that I'd call myself a pioneer because a lot of people came before me in Las Vegas, and Vegas was Vegas still, even though it was much smaller then. But one of the great things about this city is what you mentioned. They don't care if you've been here 6 weeks or 60 years. Right. If you've got something to add, come on, bring it.
Jump on board.
Jump on board.
I totally agree with you.
And bring it to the city, and you'll be welcome from day one.
Wow. Okay. So you sold the company in 2008,
yep.
And was that when you then transitioned?
No, I ran Arizona and Nevada for the company that I sold to for about 3 years. And then Governor Sandoval was elected in early November of 2010. And I had been active in, both politics, but more policy issues for about 15 years at that point. And I had met the governor. I did not know him real well, but I knew the team around him pretty well. And his folks called and asked me if I would consider looking at how to change the way we do economic development and help.
You're talking about Governor Sandoval.
Governor Sandoval, yeah. And help move that through the legislature in 2011. Mm-hmm. And I did that, and it created the Governor's Office of Economic Development. And after the session, then he asked me to leave the job I was in and go run GoEd. And tell people I have been unbelievably fortunate to have the two best jobs in Nevada, and I think that's literally true.
Okay.
Being director of GOED and being
What is GOED?
the Governor's Office of Economic
Oh,
Development.
sorry. Yeah. Okay. You said that. Yeah.
Having that job and then being able to run the LVCVA are just fabulous opportunities.
Maybe I should know this, but is the LVCVA an appointed position? Are you appointed by the governor to that position?
No, I'm not. I left GOED in really early 2018. The LVCVA has a board of 14 people.
Okay.
8 of them are elected officials, and 6 of them are from the industry in one way, shape, or form. And that board appoints the CEO and president. Now, my path was not directly there. Rossi Broncotter actually hired me in 2018 to work for him, and then hopefully when he left, take over for him, which is how things ended up working out.
He was the CEO before you.
That's right. But that's a decision that the board has to make.
So what is the LVCVA and what is its purpose?
Well, the LVCVA is kind of a unique organization, even nationally, in that we are the only single organization that is both the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So as you mentioned, we run the convention center, we sell shows into the convention center, as well as the destination marketing organization. So we oversee the marketing of Las Vegas. In every other major city, those are two different groups. I'm not sure why that is, because frankly, having them together, I think, has been helpful for Las Vegas. And the LVCVA got started in the late 50s, and it was started because of the recognition that we could completely fill rooms on weekends, but struggled to fill rooms during the week, and we needed different reasons for people to come during the weekdays. And the convention center was launched, the LVCVA was launched, and really out of the Chamber of Commerce at the time. There was a committee from the Chamber that pushed that initiative forward in partnership with the properties, up throughout the resort corridor. We obviously sell the convention center. We also develop leads for meetings and conventions for the rest of the community. We help drive leisure sales. We do air service development in partnership with McCarran. So we've got a pretty broad reach and touch a lot of things. We do almost all of the major citywide sports development. So, whether it's the NFL draft or we just recently announced the CONCACAF Gold Cup coming in August, all of those types of things.
It's funny, though, because you mentioned needing midweek business, and it's like we've gone 360. We're back to where you started, because we had great midweek business, and now that we've reopened from the pandemic, weekends are busy. It's the midweek again where people are saying, we got to fill that business back up, and that's exactly what you're... But I wanted to go back. You said it was the best job ever, and I think you probably are right. And the brand that you get to sell and market is Las Vegas. Why I remember when I moved here in 2007, and to this day, be like, you live in Las Vegas. Wow. Like, why does it have this stigma and brand of such excitement and fun that people are just fascinated by?
Well, I say all the time, I've got the easiest product in the world to sell.
Right.
The image of excitement and everything around adult freedom is the image, because it's the truth. I mean, you folks know, and you've done a fabulous job here. Your brand needs to be authentic. What you say about it needs to reflect how people feel about it, what they experience about it, and that's why Vegas has the image and the fan base that we have, because the experience when they come here is more intense. It allows them to be their best self, to be who they want to be. It allows them to develop relationships with the people they travel to Las Vegas with in a deeper way than they can anyplace else. Mm-hmm. And so many people have experienced that, and we keep making everything better. We're adding to it. We're improving it. That's really what drives all that.
Yeah, I agree. And do you focus on sort of feeder which feeder markets do you think are the most important? Is it international? Is a sort of certain states here? Is it, I don't say it's not international, but Hawaii, Canada, the places that sort of a longer travel to Las Vegas? Where do you sort of put the most emphasis on?
Well, the way you provide emphasis at this point, particularly with all the distribution channels that are out there, it's not really so much geographic anymore.
Okay.
It's demographic. It is interest driven. But a lot of it is digital, and so it goes everywhere.
Right. That's true.
We don't really, think about, hey, let's attract people from Chicago.
Right.
It is more a what interests people. How do we connect with them in a more personalized way?
And I guess air travel's probably changed a lot of this because there's so much of it. Well, again, not right now, but prior.
Yeah. Well, and right now. I mean, it's, certainly prior. Most of what we do is domestic. But we have a pretty decent-sized international presence. We have contract offices in 13 countries. Our largest international visitation comes from, Mexico, Canada, the UK, and then Australia. And so that's a large part of our international focus. And
shout out to all the people in the UK listening. We have a lot of UK people listening.
Yeah.
You're number 3 on the list. You guys need to step it up.
Yeah, we're all working on it.
Nice. And what about how you look at it? Do you do beyond downtown and the Strip? Do you look at it as a whole city, or is it primarily just downtown and the Strip? And maybe speak a little bit further into how you separate downtown versus the Strip, and maybe your thoughts on downtown and the evolution down here.
Well, I'll start with that. The evolution of downtown has been fabulous. The city has done a great job. The properties have done a great job. I hear a lot about Nashville in particular as kind of a competitive market. I mean, it's obviously on the other side of the country, but it's a neat place. They do a great job.
Right.
We were there for the draft a couple of years ago when they did that. They did a really good job.
It was packed, wasn't it?
It was completely packed.
Right.
And I've compared downtown to Nashville. I think downtown is like our Nashville. And we have more to offer than that in the entire destination. But I think downtown Vegas has become a go-to place, a really exciting place. It is diverse. It's interesting. Food quality and selection is light years ahead of where it was 15, 20 years ago. Just as an area that's attractive, it's done a fabulous job. I think we have gotten better at thinking about the destination as a whole, thinking about initiatives that not only downtown and on the Strip, but, our responsibility moves into more suburbia, as well as our extended destinations in Laughlin, Mesquite, a little bit in Boulder City, Henderson, that kind of thing. So I think we pay more attention to that now.
So
than
you do promote Laughlin and Boulder City and everything. Okay.
Our responsibility is all of Clark County.
Okay.
How does the LVCVA make its money?
We make money through the operation of the convention center itself, but we are also funded by a good-sized portion of the room tax. We get 5% of the 13% roughly room tax in the destination, and it's the business model in a normal year. Room tax is about $300 million a year to us. The operation of the convention center itself is about $60 million. It costs us about $60 million to run the convention center. So we basically operate it as a service to bring shows to town to stay in the properties. And then the way the industry thinks about the room tax portion is that they are all collecting a tax from their customers, pooling that money together to market and drive the destination forward. And most of the folks in the industry would feel like that's really their contribution, a joint contribution to making sure the city moves forward. And we try and treat it and think about it that way.
As a small piece of that, I can say we definitely think of it in that regard.
Yeah.
And it's important because, I was listening to you on a different podcast, and you were talking about how far out you book business. I mean, that's critical to us. For us downtown, we're obviously, for us, it's 1,000 rooms, but you get one big show that you guys bring in, it changes the whole complexity of the month for us. If you get a 4 or 5 day show that, when Con Expo comes to town, for example, that changes the entire complex of our business for that month, because you got that kind of business, and you're working on deals like that. It sounds like almost 2 decades out.
At times, the larger shows we will book 20 years out.
Wow.
And have. Many of our large shows are booked through. We didn't really re-up things during the pandemic, but they're booked through 2039. So. CES is booked through then.
Yeah.
The home builders. Our major shows, that can change, but that's as far out as we need to look, because those shows are such massive productions that coordinating it with all the other shows moving in and out is really important.
How closely do you work with LVE on that?
Well, LVE is funded through the LVCVA.
Right.
And their role is a portion of the sports development effort event development effort in Las Vegas. That's largely sports, but they put on the fireworks show on New Year's Eve. They obviously put on the rodeo. They do.
I asked mention because of the rodeo. The rodeo is so important to us down here. We really missed it this year, and I hope it ain't moving for good. I hope it's coming back. It better be.
No, they're
coming back.
They're under contract through 2025, and with the year we missed last year, we added a year to the end of the contract. They're not going anywhere. they love it here.
It's too good.
And people recognize that when they're in Vegas, one, their attendance is better. Some of our shows do a show in Vegas, have a rotation to someplace else, and then they come back and go back and forth. And we track that. Their attendance on average is 9% higher in Vegas than it is in any other city. Their customers have a better time. They're more energized.
I'm sure.
It's just a completely different situation. And it's the same way with the rodeo. Yeah. Those cowboys want to be here.
It's going to be the same, and we can talk about this in a minute. It's going to be the same with Raiders games and football games. If you're only going to travel to one game and you can go to a Raiders game in 65-degree weather instead of 30-degree weather, where are you going to go? And people are going to come to Vegas. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that is completely true. I'm a not even reformed Cincinnati Bengals fan. Okay. And if I'm in Ohio and I have a choice of going to Pittsburgh for a game or going to Vegas for a game, no offense to Pittsburgh, but I'm going to Vegas.
And it is a nice stadium. I took a tour of it yesterday. I went to it yesterday. It looks great.
It's a beautiful place. It'll be even more exciting than it was going to be to have it full. We were looking forward to building the stadium, opening it up. When you go, this probably applies to almost everything that we were looking forward to over the past year. When it's taken away from you for 12, 14, 16 months, when it returns, you appreciate it even more.
Well, what was your involvement in that, in the Raiders Stadium?
Well, in 2015, the Governor Sandoval formed the Tourism Infrastructure Committee and appointed me as chair of that committee and asked us to look at whether the convention center should be expanded and whether we should build a stadium, how we would fund those things, as well as we looked at other components as well. That committee was 11 people. We made a recommendation to the legislature that went to a special session in 2016 and ended up really doing three things: funding the expansion of the convention center, funding the construction of the stadium, and funding the last 0.1% of sales tax for the addition of police officers in the resort corridor.
Okay.
Then a year and a half, after that process, to finish the answer to your question, we formed the Stadium Authority, which is the oversight organization over the stadium. And really its function is to make sure that the law that was passed in the session is executed correctly and that Nevada gets the benefit of the deal that it agreed to. And I was appointed chair of the Stadium Authority, so I'm chair of the Stadium Authority as well.
Okay. Wow.
So do you feel that we'll probably be in that common rotation for Super Bowls over the next few decades?
I do. The pro sports leagues generally recognize the value that Las Vegas brings, particularly after like the Golden Knights came here and have had such tremendous success. They've done such a good job. The community's embraced them. It's the value of that to the league has been pretty extraordinary. The same thing happened with the Raiders. They sold the seat licenses faster than any other stadium out there. 40% of those seat licenses were sold to people from out of Clark County, which is about 10% higher than we had projected going in, which is a real driver now of visitation and economic development, economic impact. The leagues recognize that. The NFL has given us the draft, given us now 2 years of the Pro Bowl. We're building toward that, and I'm sure it'll be here.
Stay with us. We have much more for you on the corner of Main Street.
So quite regularly, I'm wearing pins, and people are asking me, where did you get that pin? It's a dice, it's a Plaza logo, it's a symbol of old Las Vegas. People seem to really love them, and I love to wear them on my suits. And we get them from Battleborn Pins. I got a bunch of them for all of our Plaza team members, and you too could have these pins.
It's a local Las Vegas company, and it's owned by our friend. It's female-owned by Holly Vaughn, and it showcases iconic vintage Vegas images like Vegas Vic and Vegas Vicky, and some old casinos that you don't see anymore, like the Stardust or the Dunes.
They also do really cool T-shirts and hats. So Holly's offering you, for listening to our podcast on the corner of Main Street, a special deal of 15% off. If you go to battleborn.shop, again, Battleborn, like the Nevada State motto, .shop, you can there get the 15% off discount when you enter the code PLAZA.
That's PLAZA. And they also have an awesome collection of pins just for you, Jonathan. The Killers. I know it's your favorite band. So don't forget, go to battleborn.shop and use code PLAZA for 15% off your order.
What would be your vision for both the stadium and the new convention center in terms of how they get utilized going forward? Obviously, the Raiders games go without saying, but I'm sure there'll be other things happening in there.
Yeah, when we put together the model to analyze whether investing a portion of the room tax to generate the $750 million that was our side of the deal was worth it, we projected 46 major events a year in the stadium.
Oh,
wow. 10 of them would be Raiders games. Now that will be 11.
Now it's 11, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's actually still 10 because they eliminated some of the two of the exhibition preseason games. So we traded a preseason game for a regular season game. That was a pretty good trade.
Hold on, wait. Preseason's gone?
Half of it. They had 4 games. They're down to 2.
Got it.
So one will be away, one will be home.
Okay. Yeah, but no one cares about preseason. Everyone's coming to.
Right. So that was a pretty good trade. We'll take a new regular season game instead of the preseason game. And then 6 of the games would be UNLV.
Right.
So there's 16 of the 46 events. And now we have the Pac-12 championship there. We've got the Las Vegas Bowl there. We've got CONCACAF Gold coming. So we have a lot of sporting events that can come in a number of different sports. We've got concerts. So, we've got Garth Brooks coming in July. That will be followed up, I think, on a pretty regular basis. We projected about a major stadium concert and a half a year. And then we have all these corporate events that come to town. And so a big portion, 10 of those projected events we projected would be corporate events where they'll do everything they do during the day, and they'll want to get everybody together for have their own private concert or their own private comedy show or do whatever they want to do in the stadium. And that's a pretty regular occurrence elsewhere. And so we'll move the 12 events that were at Sam Boyd over to the stadium. And,
Right.
it's monster truck pulls and, all of those types of things as well.
Amazing. Wow. And then on the convention side, on the convention center side, why did you think the expansion was needed? I mean, we had I don't know where we fall within the country in terms of size. I assume now we have the most convention space in the country with the expansion.
There's two ways to answer that. With the expansion, our convention center there is about the same size as Chicago and Orlando, and we are the three largest individual convention centers in the country. What Vegas also has that no other city has is Mandalay Bay and the Sands. So
Right.
we have 3 of the 10
And
largest.
don't forget the 28,000 square feet at the plaza.
Well, that's I was saving the punchline for last. But we have 3 of the 10 largest convention centers in the country all in one city.
Right.
And so there's about 6 million square feet of convention space, and there is about 6 million now, 7 million now square feet of carpeted meeting space in Las Vegas. That is far and away the largest amount of meeting and convention space in the United States.
And you think we can go after bigger events as a result of this expansion?
Well, the answer is at least partially yes. Our current customers came to us and said, we've outgrown your space. We need you to build more. And so that was a part of the rationale. Part of it was to be able to go after more shows. And that convention center, our central hall, was built the same year I was born. I tell people I need a renovation. That hall does as well. And it really hasn't had much work done to it in 62 years. So we plan to go back and renovate the current facility to bring it up to a pretty similar standard as the new building that we just unveiled. That takes about 600,000 square feet at a time offline, and we didn't want to have CES shrink or SEMA shrink or the home builders shrink,
Right.
because we shrank their shows. So we need to get back to doing that. Once we get done with that, then we'll be fully 2.5 million square feet and can really start to expand from there.
It's pretty crazy to think that when you envision this convention center, that the first use would be a vaccine center. What a time.
We were the largest testing center in the state. We're the largest vaccine center in the state. The court system moved courtrooms into the convention center so that they could proceed with court proceedings in a socially distanced way. We were a FEMA distribution center. I mean, it's a big building. It's the public's building. We wanted to make it available, and we're glad that it was useful.
So also, when you were in GoEd, you lured in all these big, huge companies like Apple and Tesla. Is that how the Boring Company found its way to Las Vegas with these new tunnels? And can you tell us about that?
Sure. And I didn't do it. A lot of people did that. But I did develop a relationship with the folks at Tesla and worked pretty closely with them from 2013 to when I left in late 2017. And had talked with them about the Boring Company while I was at GoEd, partly around in Reno trying to solve the traffic problem that they have on I-80 getting from the Gigafactory back and forth from Reno to the Gigafactory. When I came here, I got a call from them in the middle of 2018. They said, we've pursued this in D.C. and Chicago and L.A., and there are miscellaneous holdups that are more regulatory than anything else. We'd like to get something moving, and we know how Nevada can move fast. So what do you think? And the original conversation was about a tunnel from the convention center to the airport up and down Paradise. And so, happy to do it, but it ought to be on the Strip. That's where people want to go, up all the way up and down the resort corridor from downtown to the airport. So we started shopping that idea around, but we're also working on how to move people across the campus at the convention center that's a mile and a quarter, mile and a half long, depending on how you walk through the buildings or whether you walk outside. And, it's a long walk. And If it's July, it can be a long hot walk. Or, so we had originally planned to build an elevated roadway similar to what you see at an airport, where you can drive up to the second floor, get out, walk into the building there. And thought about, well, let's just both utilize the Boring Company idea at the convention center, which is fun, cutting edge, and it will bring a spotlight, I think, to Las Vegas. Went through an RFP process. It turned out it was also a third as expensive as building the elevated roadway or any other transportation option that we saw. Had higher capacity and had all those other benefits. So that's what we decided to do. It's turned out to be a good thing. It'll be great for the convention center, but it's also been great from just a spotlight standpoint, as well as showing the rest of the destination how this will work, that they can do it. It allows people to feel more comfortable with it.
We met with Steve Davis from them, and we're instantly on board. So we have a tentative deal to do the first station downtown.
Yeah, right.
And we're very much in support of it. In terms of, and I know Stratosphere is very supportive of it. I know other people downtown are supportive of it. Is it pretty much everybody's on board? You think that it's going to be because the thing with the monorail was it just didn't have enough places to go to. It sounds like they've got this thing going everywhere, and it could be transformative for downtown, because our biggest issue has been convincing conventioneers to stay down here, and that it's easy to get to the convention center.
Right. It has been universally well received. We submitted plans a couple of months ago, both to the city and to the county, because, as you know, north of Sahara is the city and south of Sahara is the county. And we had to identify, well, the tunnels actually run under the properties. They don't run directly underneath the strip for a number of reasons. So we had to get everybody to sign a land use agreement to allow us to run those tunnels underneath their properties. So everybody along that path has signed that land use agreement. And there are 43 locations for stations identified in those plans, where virtually every property, and that's not just the hotel properties, it's Fashion Show Mall and the Showcase Mall. And, everybody wants a station, because the stations are not expensive to build. They're going to connect you to what I think is really the next transportation cutting edge project.
I mean, I walked through the tunnels, and the concept that you could be from the airport to downtown in 10 minutes, and for single-digit dollar per person, it's per vehicle. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is going to be transformative for the city. Other cities are starting to see that. We were honored to host the mayors of Fort Lauderdale and Miami over the last 6 weeks or so.
Didn't you honor a Kardashian to walk through the tunnel first?
I was left out of that meeting. But
what? Which one?
I don't know.
Kylie Jenner came through. Yeah. and talking about notoriety, her 225 million Instagram followers saw her tour through the tunnel.
So speaking of that, you guys have kind of focused on social media influencers in this new campaign to lure more people back to Vegas. How's that going?
It's great. And, having others tell your story, I think, is important. It is more authentic, and frankly gets listened to more. People, that you've got about 7 seconds to grab somebody's attention, or they're moving on. And those folks know how to do that. They do a great job of it. They have, we're not using influencers like Kylie Jenner that we're paying. That doesn't work very well for us. But they have an audience that follows them and listens to them and trusts them.
How do you select which influencers to work with?
You'd have to ask our marketing folks. I'm not in charge of selecting our influencers, so
it's a very powerful tool. It really is.
Yeah.
And it's not that expensive. And like you said, the 2 words you said, authentic. I don't remember what the other one was, but the fact is, you get people. It's authentic to have somebody else tell that story, and it captures their imagination quickly if they believe in what that person's saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, and it's great that the LVCVA is getting on board with that.
Well, we have really evolved the marketing effort, over the last 10 years, but pretty significantly over the past 3 or 5. And, digital is really where the next generation, when I say the next generation, it's the current generation. I'm the old generation. But it's where, millennials, Gen Zers they're not on television. So that's all evolving, and our folks are great at keeping up with that.
Is that marketing campaign what inspired the change of the famous Vegas tagline from "What happens here stays here" to "What happens here only happens here"?
It is. We do a lot of research. I mean, we're in the field every week. In this particular case, in looking at overall umbrella branding for the destination, we do focus groups in major cities across the country. And what we heard was from people who are my age, don't you dare get rid of "What happens here stays here," because it brings the goosebumps out on us. It is what connects us from a verbal standpoint to Vegas. And what we heard from those younger than me is, we don't understand what that means. We share everything. Nothing stays with us. We go out to have experiences that we can share. And so that doesn't make any sense to us. That just really doesn't resonate. And a big part of our job at the LVCVA is to fill the top of the sales funnel. We don't actually, other than closing convention deals at the convention center, our job is to develop new customers, new people interested in being visitors to Las Vegas, and then turning that over to you to actually close the deal. We do that kind of virtually most of the time. Sometimes it's the actual digital handoff. But the big portion of new Vegas visitors is a younger audience. And so having a tagline that doesn't resonate with the biggest pool of our potential new visitors just doesn't make sense. Now, that is a beloved, historic, iconic tagline that we'll never reject, but we felt that it needed refreshed, and felt like the way we went about it kind of tied some of the history of that to the new finish.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I don't think many people knew that there was sort of the younger generation that was pushing for that change. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I like that. So before we let you go, as a business operator here, what are you seeing for our town? When are we coming back? How are we getting back on our feet? I mean, right now things are pretty good. Relative to what?
Better than they were.
Better than this time last year, that's for sure, and better than 90 days ago. But what are you seeing as the guy with sort of, like you said, you guys are doing research and you got your fingers on the pulse?
Yeah. What we're seeing, and kind of I think what makes sense to people. We all know people who've been vaccinated. I've been vaccinated. Once you are fully vaccinated, most everybody feels safe. And I think the people who are, for the most part, who are choosing not to be vaccinated probably feel safe as well.
Right.
And so you give it another 4-6 weeks, and for sure everybody who has wanted a vaccine will have had the opportunity to get it. And we're certainly very big advocates of getting vaccinated. We think it is important for moving forward. But we're getting close to where everybody is going to have been able to make a decision. And we see that in travel sentiment numbers, where twice as many people are comfortable traveling now as not. That is on a slope that is improving rapidly. And I think that concern will be largely behind us in the next, by Memorial Day. By the time we get to Memorial Day, roughly.
Okay.
And at that point, leisure travel, I think, comes back as strongly as it can. We see leisure back pretty much 100% in 2022.
Okay.
Business travel will be slower. International travel will be even slower than that. So we're seeing business travel return close to 100%, maybe 100% by 2023, with a climb from where we are to then over the next 18 months or so.
Right.
I think you get to CES in 23, you'll see a pretty full recovery by that point, and I think it'll be good, but not 100% in 22.
Is there any concern that that any of these conferences may just stay virtual since they've been in that for the last year?
No. Now, you got to segment it a little bit. The big trade shows in our building are owned and run by either associations, like the Home Builders is run by the National Home Builders Association. CES is owned by the Consumer Technology Association. Those shows pay for the association everything that they do. So
Right.
it is
The association will cease to exist.
right. It is imperative that they put those shows on and they be successful. A bunch of them are owned by professional trade show organizers like Informa and Emerald and Reed, that their whole existence, and some of them are publicly traded companies, is around putting on trade shows. So they have to do those. It's the corporate meetings that, large or small, that will take a little longer to recover, and that's why it'll be 23, because some of them will choose, they're cost centers, they're not profit centers. And so they'll look at that and think, well, maybe we can postpone this or not do it this year. So that will take some more time. But we're seeing real strong booking from, like the major tech companies in late 22 and 23, returning to normal by then. But between now and then, that segment will be a little choppy.
Well,
It's exciting.
here's to 2023.
I tell you, the one thing that I hope we've all learned is let's enjoy every day between now and then.
Yeah.
A lot of things were taken away from us over the past 12 months. I mean, all of us probably went through periods where we couldn't see our family, couldn't see our friends. I hope that we remember to enjoy every day we have and every opportunity that we have in those days. And I think that's one of the lessons that came out of the pandemic. It was probably a good thing. A lot of bad stuff, but
A good reset for people to
I think so.
focus on that. And you say that's to 2023, but I think Vegas is going to boom just this summer because the people that are coming back here,
sure.
it isn't the business traveler, but the people that are coming here are so appreciative for what they're having back. They're enjoying themselves, they're spending more, they've saved more money, and they're just ready to have a good time and actually enjoy themselves. And we're seeing that already, and I hope it continues.
And you're right. I didn't mean at all for my answer not to imply that we're going to bounce back quickly and better and faster, really, I think, than anyone else. That small slice of our visitation will take a little longer, but the rest of it is people need to come back.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Steve. Keep doing what you're doing for us because
Yes.
it's important to the
Thank
city.
you so much.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it.
Stay up to date with Steve on Twitter at LVCVA. We'll be back again soon, but in the meantime, please rate, review, and subscribe. Tell your friends about On the Corner of Main Street. And of course, follow us on social. On Twitter and Instagram, it's at Plaza Pod, and on Facebook, find us at Plaza Podcast. Or go right to the top and tweet Jonathan at Jonathan Jossel. We'll see you next time from right here on the corner of Main Street.